How is Stephanie? I want to talk more about the language in videos. I watch a ridiculous amount of videos on language learning and on languages and on the Chinese language specifically. And for some reason, I haven't been pulling those videos into here as much as I would like. And so I want to get better at pulling those videos in and sharing them with you, because I think you could learn something from them too. Even if you're not learning simplified Mandarin Chinese like I am, I think it could be interesting to learn about the language. And as far as some of the ones that are language learning tips, you can pull them into other languages sometimes as well. We're not going to pretend that all languages are like Mandarin Chinese, because that is a falsehood that needs to go away. So this is the first of this series of videos on the language itself. And this one is specifically on Chinese and Japanese. And it's kind of been inspired because I'll be taking a week-long wonderful vacation in the middle of nowhere in Japan next month. You'll probably get that the same month that I'm there. But yeah, anyway, so in March I will be in Japan for a week, and I probably will take a whole bunch of videos of like parts of the Japanese language that I can understand because of the Chinese-Japanese overlap in the written form. And so that brings me to Paul from LangFocus's video where he compares Chinese and Japanese. Okay, so Paul goes into a lot more detail than I'm going to here, because if I do that, then what's the point of watching his video? And he does do more of a linguistic focus than I tend to do. I'm trying to functionally use Chinese in a very specific way. So my range and my focus is super, super tiny, and he does a much better overall view, breaking it into, for example, like grammar and pronunciation and the written form and all of those linguistically categories. And it's super cool. And Paul has a ton of people following him because his videos are so clear and easy to understand and very visual. And he talks about many different kinds of languages. Many different languages, I should just say. And so if you're a language curious person, I would seriously recommend, and I'll put his link in the show notes below, but I would seriously recommend following him. His stuff is just so interesting and so brief. And for example, this video, and I keep looking over at my computer, so I'm not ignoring you, I promise. It's 12 minutes and 51 seconds. Which is pretty freaking awesome, right? I like that. That's something you can easily fit into your day if you wanted to learn about other languages without necessarily learning the language, or if you did want to. Like I learned a little bit about Chinese grammar structure just from looking at his examples. And his examples are awesome. Like I knew with the verbs that you don't inflect the verbs. For example, in English, my computer just froze. Well, that stinks. Anyway, you would say, like, I walk. That's a weird sound. Anyway, I walk to school every day. I walked to school yesterday. I will walk to school. This is not the best example. Regular verbs are not the best example. Let me use an awful one. Eat. I eat. I don't eat anything regularly. I eat lunch at noon. I ate lunch. This isn't a good example either. Oh my god, this totally sucks. Okay, look, the first one was better. The regular verbs are probably better for inflections. I eat, I walk, I walked. We're adding the ed, that's an inflection. We're changing the verb. I think the eat, ate is probably an inflection too, but for some reason in my brain right now I'm thinking that inflection means that you add something onto it, and I don't think it necessarily does. The farther away I am from leaving a PhD in linguistics program, the more I realize that the information is falling out of my head. Right. Anyway, we changed the verbs to indicate time in English, and you do not do that in Chinese. And apparently you do that to a high level in Japanese, and that's one of the differences that he highlights, and so that's a very, very interesting thing. And Chinese uses time words, and it's not the only language that uses time words and doesn't inflect its verbs. I believe Vietnamese does also, and some other ones. So if you know the other ones, I'm sure there's quite a few, then please put them in the comment section below. We'll start a languages should stop inflecting verbs kind of movement, because I strongly believe that is one of the things in some languages that needs to go over into other languages. I strongly believe that verb inflections are evil and unnecessary and only are a barrier to communication and do not help people communicate. I cannot stress how strongly I feel about this. Anyway, tangent. Woo, woo. Right, and what I love about Paul's videos is that when he breaks down language, he breaks it down. Now, Chinese is at the top here, and Japanese is at the bottom. And you can see SVO is subject, verb, object. Now, don't get turned off by that. That's just like the easiest way you can dissect a a sentence. But he color codes, and he puts big font. I've seen way too many language videos where people use small font, and with hundreds of characters, when they get small and you're not as familiar with them, it's evil, because you can't tell the difference between one thing and another. So that's one thing that he does really, really well. There's a lot of things that he does really, really well in these videos. But I really appreciate dissecting the different parts of language, of Chinese and Japanese. And I want to show you the bit where he shows you, oopsie. Sorry, I went to school. There it is. Okay, that's not going to work. I'm having pausing issues. Anyway, so he goes through example after example after example within the different categories. Again, grammar and sounds and vocabulary. And apparently vocabulary is one of the biggest overlaps between Chinese and Japanese. But I don't want to spoil that for you, okay? That's what he does. And so he goes through and he explains how the languages are similar and not similar. And even though I've seen this video like twice before, I still was surprised that most of the similarity between the two languages, and I'm going to spoil this for you, so skip ahead 5 seconds if you don't want to hear this, but the biggest similarity is in vocabulary because of historical reasons that he goes into. So, and in written vocabulary, not in spoken vocabulary. So it's super interesting, and he brings in lots of really easy to understand examples to show you not just the Chinese characters that are used in Japanese, but the Chinese characters that were used in Japanese morphed because that's what languages do when they're used, and then came back into China. And that's a super interesting bit that I didn't realize had happened. But of course it did, because language changes and moves. And that's the thing that he goes into in a lot of his videos, is the differences in language that you don't necessarily see in language textbooks. And so I just wanted to do a brief video on this video because I think his language videos are so accessible and so clear and just so professionally done, but not in an off-putting, sterile kind of way, because they can go down that route too, and that's not what Paul does in these videos. So I'm super excited to share this Paul's channel with you, and I hope to share. I follow a lot of these kinds of channels, not just language learners, but people kind of teaching about language, and I hope to share a lot more with these I hope to share more of these videos with you in the future, because if I'm watching them, you might be interested in watching them too. If you're watching my channel, then you might, I'm guessing we have a similar interest, which I guess we do. I guess we do. We're language geeks. We're language geeks. Okay, that's not a song. Anyway, this video is in the link below, but Paul has a gazillion videos on many, many different languages. So do go and check him out, and tell him I sent you his way. Is that even the right sentence structure? Who cares? Communication has been made. What? Oh my god, I have to go. I have to go get more coffee. Okay, Satyen. Bye.